Hi guys, welcome back to the Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to chat about two books, but this is going to be a little different. So last week I did the reread book tag because, well, it was fun, and also I was in a reading slump and that continued, and I tried to start a couple different genres and I just soft DNF'd them because just being a mood reader and being in a reading slump, it just wasn't happening, and I didn't want to give those books like an unfair experience, right? So I decided to reread two of my favorites, and in the reread book challenge book tag, I said like I try not to talk about books I've already read and stuff like that, and I do try to do that, but these are the only two books I finished this week. And not only do I want to give a synopsis, but I kind of wanted to go a little deeper into why these two are my favorite, why they're consistently 5 stars, why every time I reread them, I'm not bored, I don't skip anything, and they just put me in a fantastic mood and remind me why I love reading so much. So I hope you guys don't mind that I do this week. Hopefully this will get me back into my groove, right? So these two are the books I'm going to talk about. And this one has beautiful little step back. Okay. So Angel by Johanna Lindsey and A Marriage Most Scandalous by Johanna Lindsey. Now I know they're both Johanna Lindsey, but when she there's a certain era of Johanna Lindsey that is just so freaking good. Okay, so Angel was published in 1992, and it's 403 pages. And yes, it is a paperback, so if it was a hardcover, maybe it'll be less page count. And Marriage Was Scandalous was published 2005, and it's 326 pages. Now, both of them 5 stars, both of them are rereads, both of them are books I pick up constantly, and they just remind me why I love reading. Now, on the surface, there's some similarities, but let me just do a quick synopsis of both, and then we could get into similarities, differences, and why I think these are just gold standard for me, okay? Okay, so let's go with Angel. Angel is the name of the main male character, and Cassie is the main female character. Now, this takes place in the Wild West. Angel takes place in 1881 in the Wild West. So this Angel, oddly enough, this book is the last book in like a trilogy, because Johanna Lindsey, like a lot of historical romances, kind of do can do like book groups of books together, like having to do with one family, or in this case, chosen family. Okay, so the first two I didn't. They're okay. The first one I didn't like, it was with Jessie, that was the female, and Chase. I didn't really like their story very much. And the second book was Jessie's half-brother, Colt, and his English Duchess, Jocelyn. That one was all right. And this is the third in that trilogy, and it's because Angel is Colt's best friend. So I don't think I explained that very well. Anyway, it's interesting that in this grouping, the third book is like 5 star. Oh my God, I love it. Where the other two, it's like, you know? So I always thought it was kind of interesting, isn't it? Anyway. Angel is a fast gun, and he's known throughout the West as the Angel of Death. And he is, when he does duels, it's apparently his speed is blurring, like blink and you'll miss it, you know, which is not human possible, but it's fun, you know, in a book, it's fun. He's basically fell into being a mercenary, and he doesn't like having debts, right? So someone calls in a debt to keep Cassie protected until her dad comes home. Now, Cassie is a very interesting main lead female. She is a meddler, like compulsively, but I've never found her annoying. The book does a good job of explaining why she does what she does, even if she doesn't realize it, you know? And she honestly is a good person, and she's just trying to help, right? So she on purpose meddles with a Romeo and Juliet situation. These two feuding families, the youngest are in love, so she helps them elope. And because of that, both of the families are gunning for her. So Angel goes there to keep her safe until her dad shows up or she goes back home, because her dad lives in Texas, her mom lives in Wyoming. Complicated family. Very complicated family. Johanna Lindsey does a great job of showing the Stewart family is already pretty eccentric through descriptions of the home, things like that. So when Cassie's pet panther shows up, Maribel, I'm never, like, the first time I wrote it, I was like, huh, okay. It's not weird, because it's very much through the environment shows and explained that her grandfather, Cassie's grandfather, he's a world traveler and he sends gifts back from all over the world, and Marigold was just one of those gifts. So yeah, she has a pet panther, and I love Maribel. Not Marigold, Maribel. I love Maribel. Don't ever talk bad about Maribel. She's the best. So he's bodyguarding Cassie, and Cassie is not good on her feet. She's not good at improv or thinking up ways to get herself out of trouble quickly, and she kind of makes things worse. And she tells someone that Angel is her fiance because people are making noise that he's staying in her bunkhouse. So one of the families forces her to get married to Angel. So there's a forced marriage in that. And by the time that happens, you've already seen the connection between the two, the yearning between the two, which is so good. The third act, conflict, phenomenal. It ties in with everything that's been going on. And the end scene is my favorite. Now, a little bit of controversy, or not controversy. The end scene is the same that she uses later on in a book called One Heart to Win, I believe, where Cassie where the main female challenges the male to quick draw on whoever wins. If they win, they stay married. If he wins, they get a divorce. And the girl is surprisingly really quick, and the guy purposely goes very slow, right? That's how this ends. It's very cute. I've always been disappointed that she did that again in a different book, and that different book I really liked until that part. I was like, oh man. So that is a quick synopsis of that. I will come back to dive a little deeper in a second. Marriage Most Scandalous, the main male lead is Sebastian, and the male-female lead is Maggie. Similarities, this book opens up on a duel, but this takes place in 1808 in England. Sebastian is disowned. A duel against his best friend Giles, in which his best friend Giles dies, and Sebastian is disowned. He goes to the continent, or Europe, and he becomes a mercenary because he needs money for food. And I believe in that book, yes, I don't know if it's his valet that follows him or Sebastian himself, but there's a line that says, you're surprised how much can get done if one has common sense, and Sebastian has common sense. So he made a name for himself, and he's known throughout Europe as the Raven. Maggie is had always been the neighbor of the Tomlinsons, I believe, Sebastian's family. Giles was supposed to marry Maggie's big sister, Eleanor. And when the duel happened and Giles died, Eleanor ran away. When Maggie's parents died, she went to live with Sebastian's father because they were neighbors. So Maggie is very stubborn. And then there seems to be a plot. Someone is trying to kill Sebastian's father. So Maggie goes to the continent to find the Raven because even she's heard he can solve any problem, and it turns out to be Sebastian. Now, to get Sebastian back to help, not only does Maggie tell him that his father might be a victim of a murder plot, but that his younger brother married the woman that caused the duel in the first place. So they pretend to be married so he can get in the door, because he expects to be barred completely from the house, so he can investigate who's trying to kill his father and why the heck his little brother married the woman that caused the duel. That synopsis is a bit quicker, I suppose, yes, but but that story's a little more streamlined than Angel. Not that both of their pacings are phenomenal. The third act in that is very sweet. Third act conflict is actually pretty satisfying considering what happens. I do say that Marriage with Scandalous is a little bit more wholesome than Angel is, because Angel has some darker themes sometimes. So there is that. Both 5 stars, both I love them. Now let's sink our teeth in a little bit, shall we? So the similarities. Both men are mercenaries. Both men are known by very interesting monikers, the Angel of Death and the Raven. Both books open up on a duel that neither main character actually wants to be a part of. And when Angel, unfortunately, when he does a duel, he doesn't leave his opponents alive. He tries very hard to convince the young gun that's trying to duel him to get a name for himself, that no, don't do this. You don't need a name for yourself. Just go home, kid. But the kid persists, and Angel is forced to win the duel. And it's explained in Angel's POV why he can't leave an opponent alive, because he has a scar across his neck. And once he showed mercy to a young gun, said young gun snuck into his camp and tried to slit his throat when Angel was asleep. So Angel doesn't leave opponents alive for that instance. If they don't have a wanted poster that he could deliver those men to the authorities and maybe get a little cash over it, then, so that's how Angel thinks about a duel. It's in the POV and you understand where he's coming from, and you almost feel sorry for him because he really doesn't like to kill, but it's just one of those things that he's like, well, this is my life, and it's the life he fell into. Angel was kidnapped when he was 4 or 5 years old and raised in the mountains, and the only other thing he's good at is furrier, but he would rather die than go back to that life, right? So he's tried other professions and he's just really good at being a fast gun. So that's how he justifies it. And when you're in his POV, you kind of understand where he's coming from, and you really feel bad in a way, because obviously he doesn't like doing it, but that's just what his life is, and he's just has to keep going, Now, with Sebastian being the Raven and mercenary, he did it because he needed money, obviously. And I think the book does a good job of showing how he kind of gets a thrill out of it, of the challenges that come in every different job he accepts, what jobs he doesn't accept, because he has a hard line. He's not gonna this one client tried to hire him to kill his estranged wife. He said no. The man kidnapped his valet and Timmy, who is an orphan that Sebastian kind of took in. He's very emotionally distant from him, but he still doesn't want him hurt or anything like that. That's why he kind of reminds me of Batman. Anyway, so you do see that Sebastian has lines. They both have lines. Angel and Sebastian both have lines. They don't cross. Both have justified if they do have to kill, why, things like that. Their personalities completely different. Completely different. You would think someone with the moniker Angel of Death is quiet, calm, cool, collective, in control, and he comes off like that. But in his POV, you see, especially when it has to deal with Cassie, he is very anxious. He doesn't know the right thing to say, so he doesn't say anything. The only time he does become the Angel of Death and this kind of more aggressive, scary character is in protection of Cassie, or the very small amount of people he cares about, which is Colt, his best friend Colt. So, and in Angel, there is an attempted SA. Just to let you guys know, Cassie's fine though. It's okay. Angel takes care of it. But like I said, the book Angel's a little more darker, a little more edgier than Marriage Most Scandalous, which is fine. I love them both, and the Raven, his personality is very much what you would think of someone who was raised to take over a lordship in 1800s England. He's very arrogant. He's very confident. When he has a disagreement with Maggie, his romance, partner. He's frustrated and things like that because of Maggie's stubbornness, but their personalities are very different, where Angel has more anxiety and he's not sure if it's not a gunfight or fixing a problem, he's not really sure what to do, so he kind of stays quiet because of that. Where the Raven is so sure he knows how to do everything, and during the book Maggie kind of shows like, no, you're wrong about this, you know. So it's, personality is completely different. The female leads, Cassie is a meddler almost compulsively, and you understand that because of her childhood. So her parents have been arguing since she was born. Literally, they would not talk to each other except through her, to the point where her father moved to Texas and built an exact same replica of the house in Wyoming, and she goes there for the summers. And in the book, through Cassie's POV, you see she's too scared to try to fix her parents' stupid, immature, ridiculous problem. So she kind of compulsively has to fix everybody else. And not in like, oh, you're not acting how I want you to act, fix it. But like, oh, you have a crush on this person? I'll set you up. Oh no, it'll be okay. You'll be great. Oh, you don't like this job? Let me find you a better job. Like it's not that she's trying to control people in the sense of how they act or who they're with, but like, she's like, oh, you have a crush on them? I'm gonna meddle. And it's like she can't help herself. And you, while reading this book, you understand it's because of literally how she grew up. You know, it's almost a compulsive need. In the book, Angel is the one that forces her parents to talk to each other, because he's like, I had it, and he just locks them in the barn overnight. You know, he's like, stop being children. And then in A Marriage Most Scandalous, Maggie is so stubborn, and she is so bitter towards Sebastian. Obviously, as the book goes on, you know, he chips away at that. She lets that go, and they fall in love and everything. But you also understand where Maggie's coming from. Her parents are gone. Her sister, she has no idea where her sister is. She could be dead. She could be alive. She has no idea. And in her mind, the person what caused all this was the duel, right? Because Giles married a woman named Juliet, and Juliet seduced Sebastian. Giles found out about it. They had a duel, and I will say for Sebastian, he had no idea his friend married Juliet, because his friend was set to marry Eleanor. So he honestly thought Juliet was honestly thought that Juliet was an S worker. He had no idea. She came on to him. He had no idea. If he'd never even seen Giles and Juliet talk to each other. Interesting, isn't it? Yet Giles like, that's my wife. And he's like, what? So there was a duel. Giles died. Eleanor ran away. And Maggie's parents died. And she ended up with Sebastian's father, where she had to live under the same roof as Juliet, because Juliet married Sebastian's younger brother, Denton married his little brother Denton. So in her mind, she has to blame, and you kind of get it from her POV, almost to keep herself keep going. She blamed Sebastian, because what is she gonna do? She doesn't like Juliet, even though Juliet likes her, but she can't just tell Juliet to F off. This is not her home. She has nowhere else to go. You know, it's Maggie is fascinating, and I get like why people get frustrated with her, but I don't think they like, if you really dive into it and you really listen to her POV, Johanna Lindsey puts it out for you why she blames Sebastian and why it's silly, and it obviously gets chipped away as the story goes forward. So those are two groups of main characters that I just see. This is why I like them. They're flawed, they're rich, they're interesting, they have reasons for how they act, and the story shows us why they're acting like this, why this personality trait is what it is. And as the story progresses, you see their connections to each other, and in one, the anger and the bitterness subsides slowly but surely, because friendship happens, and then friendship with a huge helping of attraction happens. And the other side, you get basically like a debt that turns into friendship, and again, huge helping of attraction, especially in Angel, considering Cassie isn't the conventional beauty, but as Angel gets to know her, he's more attracted to her every second, right? So I love those two pairings and how complex the characters are, how they're flawed, how they're interesting, how they have a little bit more depth to them. Now, the secondary characters are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. They also have complex reasons for what they're doing. They also have depth to them. They don't feel like a towny sim that just loaded into the game, right? They feel like they're people just like the main characters that had a whole life, and they have reasons for how they react. The bad guys and the good guys, right? For Sebastian, the valet, and the orphan, I'm sorry, Tommy. I always get Timmy and Tommy confused. Adore Sebastian because, one, the valets know Sebastian his whole life. His whole family has been servants for his household, and he went with him because he didn't want his lord to be by himself. Also, adventure, and you could see like a real friendship there, even though there's like society lines that Sebastian doesn't want to adhere to. So when they get back to England to figure out who the attempted murderer is, the fact that the valet goes back to like the strict upstairs downstairs kind of, Sebastian hates it, right? But also you understand why the valet is doing that, why Tommy wants to get Sebastian's attention so badly, and when he doesn't get it, he's really upset. Like, there are reasons, and don't worry, Tommy is happy at the end of the story too. It's very sweet. There's reasons for that. On Angel, you get why the two families hate her. You get why they want her gone. Some of the hired hands go way too far, but don't worry, Angel takes care of it. But you understand why they're angry. You even understand her stupid ass parents. Why they are the way they are, and why I don't agree with them. I think that was the most immature and horrible thing to do to their daughter. Not the most horrible, but so immature, and obviously had lasting consequences. And the mother, Catherine, is so overbearing when it comes to Cassie that it is very annoying. And reading it, you chafe at the bit just as much as Cassie does. But Cassie kind of like, no, that's my mom. I have to be good. I have to, like, almost like she's conditioned. And then eventually, because of her love and marriage to Angel, she starts kind of getting a little bit more of a backbone when it comes to her mother. Now, they don't have a fight or a confrontation or anything, but, you know, her mother does eventually. She's like, no, I love him. I don't want a divorce. You know, there's boundaries put. And that's because she gets a little bit more self-awareness and gets a little bit more confidence. Just like Angel does, because Angel wants to find out who his birth parents were, because he was kidnapped when he was 4 or 5. When he finds out who they were, he wasn't going to contact them. Or when he finds out who his mother is, he wasn't going to contact them. But his connection to Cassie kind of doesn't completely fix his self-conscious issues, like his self-esteem issues, but it pushed him to at least see her, right? And being surrounded by his family, his step-siblings, his half-siblings, and understanding what happened helps him. We're at the point where he's like, you know, maybe I can be good enough for Cassie. Because this whole time, he doesn't want to saddle Cassie with him because he's nothing but a killer, right? But his family accepts him so much that he's like, maybe I can be something else and have a life with Cassie. Like, it's very sweet. So even the secondary characters who are only in it for a chapter are interesting and complex and feel like fleshed out people. They don't take over the story, which is lovely, which is a wonderful balance on either book. And in Angel, you see the couples from the other 2 books. They don't take up the story either. At the most, maybe 1.5 chapters worth of them are in it. And if you love the 2 first books, I bet that's really wonderful to see how their stories pan out. You know what I mean? But they're in it kind of discussing Cassie and Angel and what's going on with that. Like gossiping, basically. Pretty much gossiping. And helping Cassie kind of stand up for herself a little bit. Like Jesse's like, who cares what people think? If you want to stay married to Angel, stay married to Angel. And she's like, wow, I wish I could be as strong as Jesse. Well, eventually she is. You know what I mean? So that is one point that I love about both books. All the characters are fleshed out, are well thought out, are complex, have their own wants, desires, and motivations. And the secondary characters, including the bad guys, don't take over the story. The two main couples are the focus of the story. Especially in A Marriage Most Scandalous, Dayton, what are you doing? He became like barely functioning alcoholic because he's married to Juliet. Their screaming rows are ridiculous. He seems like he's guilty all the time. It's fascinating and so much fun that I don't get tired of it. Even though I know the ending of that mystery, I still enjoy it, right? Now, both pacings are phenomenal. I will say, no, both pacings are phenomenal. In Angel, there are second characters that show up and you don't think they're going to show up again, but they're characters that actually have real impact in the story. There are a couple times when the POV switches to a random person. Well, I shouldn't say random. One POV is the oldest son to one of the families that is angry with Cassie. He was planning to court her and he's really bitter about what's happening. And he gets a POV for one chapter and you kind of understand, I don't know, it's there to push the story forward and also it gets you into the head of these two families that they're not bad people. And doing that, yes, I believe the family itself has their own romance book later on, so it makes sense. There's a time when you get the POV of a private investigator that Cassie hires to find Angel's parents because, again, she can't help but meddle. It's compulsory, right? He's interesting because you see Angel's point of view. You see Angel through his point of view, a very analytical, satiric point of view, so it's interesting in that way. And it kind of shows not everybody's terrified of the angel of death, you know? So, because you've been in Angel's head and you know he's just like a lovable little anxiety ball. And you also been in Cassie's head where she sees the best of him and adores him, even though she doesn't want him to know that. So it's interesting to see Angel from a third party, right? And this character shows up, Bartholomew. When you first read it, you think he's just a throwaway character. He hits on Cassie. She's like, no, I'm married. He doesn't believe her. And then he's in the, he's talking to his friend. He's like, I think I'm going to go for her. And Angel's like, the hell you are. And it kind of shows Angel being really protective and Bartholomew faints or whatever. You think that's it for him. But it turns out Bartholomew, that name, is his stepbrother. So it's interesting how those come together. Now the third act conflict involves a family member of someone that Angel to protect Cassie in the first part of the book. So the pacing is wonderful and there isn't a throwaway character, if that makes sense. And it's all interconnected. Now him protecting Cassie from all these little attempts on her is the secondary storyline, but it doesn't erode or take away from the romance of the book. In fact, the romance is so well woven into the second plotline, you have to really sit down and think about it, realize that those are two separate plot lines, right? It's so well done because sometimes the mystery or whatever takes over the romance when it's a romance book, and sometimes the romance book, that's all it's about and there's nothing else that's going on and it kind of feels a little boring. In Marriage Most Scandalous, the fake marriage as they're falling in love, and both books yearning, so good. I love a good yearn. Is happening. One, Sebastian is trying to figure out who's trying to kill his father and why the hell his younger brother married Juliet and what was Juliet after, you know, because she started everything. And it's a wonderful mystery and it's very interesting and there's a lot of twists and turns to it, but again, it doesn't take away from the romance. It doesn't impede on it. It actually feels like it pushes it forward in a very interwoven kind of way. So both books do not feel like they're romance in a vacuum, because some books it feels like the book is just two people just put down two Sims that never leave their house, and you know, like it's kind of like that. It feels empty and hollow. With these two books feel rich and fascinating and feel like fully fleshed out little worlds. I sound so pretentious right now, but that's, you know, that's what it is. And I think those are the reasons, I know those are the reasons I love these books so much. And these are the reasons I go back to them so often when I am in a pretty bad slump, and why they always bring a smile to my face. Because not only is like the happily ever after lovely, but the journey there is always so much fun. And even if I know how the outcome happens, I still get swept up in the, oh my gosh, are they gonna make it? Is there gonna be happily ever after? Is he gonna forgive her? Is he gonna save her? What's gonna happen? Holy moly, I didn't see that twist coming. What do you mean Juliet did that? And yeah, there is something. And like, it's so silly because I've read Marriage Most Scandalous so many times, but every time I just get swept up in the world and I'm like, I can't believe Juliet did that. And it's like, yeah, I can. I've read this book so many times, but it still sweeps me up. And I have to say, Johanna Lindsey, when she was in her prime, the top tier books, when she does them right, oh, they're so phenomenal. Gosh, I really went on for a while, didn't I? I hope this video isn't too annoying. I know I talked about these books before, and I hope I did a good job communicating going a little bit more in depth why these books always hook me in. I love Sebastian, I love Angel, I love Cassie, I love Maggie. Do you guys hear that? Anyway, that motorcycle, damn. I love all the secondary characters. The bad guys are always interesting. Even Cassie's mom, who frustrates me so much, I understand where she's coming from, and it's nice to see when Cassie kind of pushes back a little bit. The story always sweeps me up. The will they, won't they always sweeps me up. Like, it's ridiculous, and I know that, but I just, you know, I enjoy them, and they're comforting, and I love them, and they're so rich little stories. And they're so wonderful showing and not telling what people are and why people act the way they do and why these two couples are made for each other and why they love each other. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna stop now because I could talk about these books for hours. And you know what? I don't want to talk about it. I'm done. Oh boy, I don't even know what this video is, but here we are. I don't want too much time for me to go back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.